Does Sam Leavitt actually suck?
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and we are here at PHNX HQ2 in downtown Phoenix. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some Arizona Wildcats athletics with you. And as Kevin kind of alluded to off the top of the show, just a little quick look into our world here at PHNX HQ2 as Kevin has been just talking nonstop and disparaging ASU quarterback Sam Leavitt for about an hour here. And he just wanted to kind of lead the show, I guess, with a little bit of friendly debate.
Yeah, man.
Friendly chatter.
You know, it's the off season, and quite frankly, you get bored during the off season. And what better to do than look at your rival quarterback and be like, I don't think he's very good. Now, I asked the question, and everyone in the office is upset with me because I asked a question at the top of the show.
Oh, what? You can't ask questions anymore?
Exactly. You're trying to get rid of science. Science is nothing if not asking questions. You know what I mean? And I think just me asking, does Sam Leavitt suck? The answer can be no. The answer could be.
The answer is no, Kevin.
The answer could be that he's awesome.
And now we have.
But let me ask the question. You know what I mean? And that's all we were doing. That's all I've been doing for an hour. I wouldn't say I've been disparaging his name. Yeah, no, I just got bored and started asking some questions.
You know, as you could hear, I'm sure right off the mic there, Anthony Totri has since caught wind of Kevin's question that he was asking, his embrace debate, if you will, and yeah, I mean, over the last hour, the Sun Devils crew has been in their studio doing their own podcast, so they haven't heard any of the things that Kevin's been saying and the words that have been coming out of his mouth, but. It's been a lot, Totri. It's been a lot. And Kevin wants to ask the real questions here. Just how good is Sam Leavitt? I believe the word backpacked by Cam Scadaboo was used at one point. Oh, wow. It's just the Damon Fairall show. Kevin is being attacked by Anthony Totri.
The answer is damn good.
Sorry, I couldn't let that
No, you couldn't allow that takeover
propaganda
to happen.
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Couldn't allow that. Have you noticed it's never us doing the takeovers?
No, yeah.
It's never us going into their studio saying, hey, I want a little bit of that mic. I need a little bit extra airtime. It's always the other way around. And it's one of those things that just makes you just sit back, look in the mirror a little bit and wonder, like, what's going on here? What's going on in the world of ASU athletics?
Real.
Hollywood Totri. Get him on camera even more.
I mean, hey. All I'm saying, right, is that the man did not need to come on our podcast and try to spew propaganda about the guy that's being
I tried to
propped
assault
up.
you, Kevin.
The man's being propped up. You know what I mean?
You should call the cops.
I could. It's not really my style for various reasons. Not going to say what kind of reasons. But, yeah. No, Damon, that's not really my get down with that. So now that Totri's out of the room, I think we should move into our actual show today, Damon. And you alluded to it off the top. But we do have some quarterback rankings to discuss, and would you like to get us into those?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, there was a quick anonymous poll done by Open for Business, which is a Big 12 newsletter, keeps you very informed on the news and notes, the happenings of the Big 12. And they ran an anonymous poll among asking the players, probably the leaders of the different teams that were invited to Big 12 Media Day. What did each team have? Like 5-6 players that came out to represent their respective universities, and
occasionally a kicker.
But they did Big 12 quarterback rankings, and they had players sit down and kind of give their view on the matter. And Kevin, why don't we go ahead and check out what the players responded with in terms of these anonymous rankings here. Your boy, Sam Leavitt, Number one at the top with 8 votes. By far the leading vote getter here. According to the players, he is the number 1 quarterback in the Big 12. You have Avery Johnson from Kansas State at number 2 with 4, second most. Jalen Daniels in sole possession of number 3, Kansas's quarterback and noted best friend of Noah Fifita, as we've come to discover, as well as, and then a kind of a slew here of quarterbacks, Kevin, Devin Dampier, Baron Morton, Noah Fifita, Sawyer Robertson, Caden Salter, and Rocco Becht, all receiving 1 vote. But Arizona's quarterback, Noah Fifita, receiving 1 vote there from an anonymous Big 12 player, that he is the best quarterback in the entire conference. What do you make of that list?
I have 2 questions off the top. Do you know if you were allowed to vote for yourself? And if that's the case, do all these guys with 1 vote, were they just voting for themselves?
No, I don't believe you are allowed to vote for yourself. And if you were, Noah Fifita is the last guy who would ever vote for himself. I think we know that pretty clearly at this point. Plus, it'd be pretty crazy for Noah Fifita to say this quote about himself and speak about himself in the third person here, because I believe that this is probably the person that voted for Noah Fifita, said he's agile. He was just back there just going crazy against us. And Kevin, I wanted to play a little exercise live on air here of which team player did you think said this last year, because I'm just going to assume it was from last season, given that it's the Big 12 thing. But I'm looking at his game log, and, wasn't the best season for Noah Fifita. Wasn't the best season for Arizona football. Which team could possibly be thinking these thoughts about Noah Fifita? I mean, I think automatically you think of the Utah game.
Ooh,
I remember that the Utah game was a pretty good showing for Noah Fifita. Even looking at it statistically, it wasn't like an insane game from Noah Fifita. It's not as if he went out there and lit the world on fire with 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. But he really, if you remember correctly, was kind of like taking the reins of that one. And at the end of that game, kind of put Arizona on his back, similar to how Cam Scadaboo put Sam Leavitt on his back last season for Arizona State. And definitely won Arizona that football game. I'm trying to look here. Is there any other game that pops out at you that maybe you think a player, which team could this player have been from that said this about Noah Fifita?
I don't want to be that guy, Damon, and I actually give you a lot of credit for bringing this to the table, because that was a great impromptu on-the-spot question to ask me, but I think you missed the lowest hanging fruit. It has to be Devin Dampier of, at the time, New Mexico, and now of the Utah Utes, who comes in and would be a part of that Big 12 quarterback survey, right? He'd be a part of that if you're asking these Big 12 quarterbacks. And in that game against New Mexico, where Luke Wysong, yes, he went off against Arizona, and that was in part because of Devin Dampier having a decent day. Noah Fifita went 19 for 31, 422 yards passing, 4 touchdowns and an interception with a long of 78, and I think we all remember that one. So, yeah, I think that was maybe the quarterback that would have picked Noah Fifita as the best in the conference. I couldn't, because I was going to ask you, regardless of the quote, but they might go hand in hand, right? But, like, which quarterback do you think would have picked Noah Fifita to have been the best in the conference? And I think based on that quote, it sounds to me like Devin Dampier.
Yeah, I'm not sure I don't think it was just the quarterbacks who were voting necessarily on this, but I definitely see where you're coming from. And I think that as much as, I was locked in on Utah there, maybe it was one step removed from Utah, Kevin, as you alluded to with the New Mexico game. I think that that's a great shot. I think that it's very possible that Devin Dampier said something similar about Noah Fifita, as well as, Devin Dampier is a smaller statured guy. I feel like, the
game respect game.
The small quarterbacks, we got to stick together a little bit here in this conference. And also Devin Dampier, friend of the program.
Facts. Friend of the Freedom State.
Friend of the Freedom State, native of the Freedom State. And of course, I dapped up Devin Dampier, my boy. Told him, hey, good luck this season, but not too much luck, brother. And then he invited me to his birthday party.
Did you dap him up as many times as you dapped up Bijan?
No, just once.
Do people even know that you dapped up? You want to tell that story real quick?
No, I went to high school with Bijan.
Oh, what? Dude, no way. That's crazy.
Speaking of, Kevin, I heard that maybe you went through a moving process recently.
Nah. Yeah, I did. You got me. But no, back to this anonymous quarterback, anonymous ranking, whatever you want to call it. They also, you sent me pre-show, they had tiers, right? So you had a chart and you also had tiers.
Well, this is the chart and the tiers are from Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, it's fair. True. For Pro Football Focus's situation over there. They were doing a little bit of preseason quarterback talk in the Big 12. Should we go through the tiers of the chart first, Damon?
Let's hit the chart first because I believe that the tiers were conducted from the chart itself. Here you can see a chart of quarterbacks that have had the right side of that y-axis is going to be for quarterbacks that have played a lot more college football, who have taken a lot more dropbacks, where on the left side of that y-axis is going to be the players that have taken less dropbacks. That's why you see a guy like Sam Leavitt on the left side of the y-axis rather than on the right side, because he has only played one season of college football. But he above that x-axis, the horizontal line on there, is your wins above replacement players, determined by Pro Football Focus through their algorithm on this particular stat. And Noah Fifita ranks pretty highly among the current crop of quarterbacks here in college football, Kevin. If you look at that list, and granted, it is a list that is compiled from multiple seasons worth. It's your entire body of work in college football, and we all know how special Noah Fifita was in 2023. But I think it just goes to show that, maybe people are sleeping on Arizona's quarterback a little bit. Like, he is in a pretty elite class of players, Kevin, when it comes to this list and the players that have added the most value to their team over the last few seasons of college football.
Yeah, no, and you and I were talking pre-show about which players on Arizona's team should even be considered sleepers from a more like macro perspective when you're looking at the conference down, right? But when you're, and I kind of, in jest, I said to you, like, this is a team full of sleepers in a way, right? There really isn't anyone on this team that, like, and Noah Fifita would be that guy first and foremost, right? But like, there really isn't anyone on Arizona's team that that wouldn't sneak up on the National Reporter or the National Casual Fan or even the Big 12 Casual Fan. Like, I think probably knows of Noah Fifita. But if you're a Big 12 casual fan, you have no idea really about the Alamo Bowl and what really he looked like that season, right? You have no clue. So I think, like, while Noah Fifita, I think if we throw that chart here back up, I think Noah Fifita to be that high on that end of things, I honestly think would surprise some people. And I think the idea that if he gets back to that level that he was at in the Alamo Bowl year, I feel like it would be a surprise to some of the casual fans nationally. Not at all to us, not at all to the people who, watch Noah Fifita play football. They know he has that skill at all times. But, I think this is actually kind of a good illustration of how last year was not the quarterback that Noah Fifita is as a whole, if you look at his full game.
Yeah, and I think that we can't just evaluate the 2024 season, right? I know that everybody wants to look at what happened most recently, and that's kind of going to be weighed higher than what's happened in the past, and understandably so. But I also think that we do have to incorporate that entire body of work, Kevin, when it comes to, looking at these quarterbacks. And also, like, this does factor in last season. I'm pretty sure, and I don't have his exact 2023 number in front of me here, but I'm pretty sure Noah Fifita was over that 1.0 number on the chart. If you wouldn't mind bringing the chart up one more time. The 1.0 line is right above where Noah Fifita lands on this chart, kind of centrally. I believe he had an over 1.0 WAA in 2023, but last season he had a slightly negative WAA, and that's why he drops under that line. Still one of the best in all of college football, returning here. And you can see that the players that he's around in that upper right quadrant of players that had a good amount of dropbacks, a good amount of college football experience, combined with the fact that they have a high wins above average. Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt, Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Drew Aller of Penn State, and Carson Beck of now Miami, formerly of Georgia, are the only players that are seemingly ahead of him. And so I think that you have to look at that list and at least feel pretty confident, like, hey, we have a determined set signal caller. And there are some schools out there that I think everybody at this point of the year pretty much has who they think is going to be their quarterback, but there are not a bunch of schools that are super confident in their quarterback necessarily. Like, imagine you're Houston and you have Connor Weigman. I know we talk about him all the time, but it's like, how could you be confident in Connor Weigman? How could you?
You really can't, right? You can't.
Like, he hasn't shown nearly enough. But with Noah Fifita, I think that we know that if things are right around him, that things will look good. And that's like the things being right around him is an entirely different scenario. Like we'll have to determine that as football games actually begin to get played. But we know that Noah Fifita can do it when he is in the right situation because we've seen it before. And that's where I think that you have to have a little bit of confidence in your signal caller, probably more than most people would have in the same quarterback returning off of a 4-8 season.
Yeah, no, and I think, when you're talking to Noah Fifita about whether or not he feels like any of this has actually affected who he is as a quarterback, you don't get that vibe at all. And when you do take into account like the overall performance of Noah Fifita last year, I think maybe some people felt this way, but I don't want to speak for you, but I'm assuming you're in the same boat as I am. None of us watched last year's Noah Fifita performances and felt like that was fully on Noah Fifita.
No.
Right, like that was a failure of skill in Noah Fifita. It didn't feel that way, right? It felt like this was a failure of scheme around Noah Fifita and a failure of support for a skilled quarterback, and it kind of left him on an island at times. And sure, he looked like he didn't really know what he was doing out there, but that's because there wasn't really a plan, right? And I think if you're able to return him to that form, I think you're going to be able to see him rise back up that chart in the wins above average axis there, axis, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I think the chart to me overall speaks to his quality as a quarterback, regardless of the context in which he is playing in.
Yeah, I think you have to admit that Noah Fifita had some happy feet as the season went on last year, just kind of in regards to how poorly the offensive line was playing, and just kind of how that unit didn't really culminate under Josh Oglesby in 2024. And you bring Josh Oglesby back. You have a lot of new faces in the room. And I think, you just have to kind of hope as Arizona fans that unit gets better. And if it does, I honestly think that the rest will fall into place. I think that there's enough talent in that pass catching unit, Kevin, that I'm not too worried necessarily about what those guys can do. But I will say that, I think that the offensive line is what scares me. If Noah Fifita has enough time to throw, if he is an average offensive line, I'm not at all worried about his ability to get this team to a bowl game. But I really do, in fact, think that the offensive line being a strong and together unit is kind of make or break for this team next season, make or break for Noah Fifita. And I think that Noah Fifita and a lot of offenses, I think probably looks fantastic. It's to be determined on Arizona's offense, to be determined on Seth Daigie's offense, how good Noah Fifita looks, but I think he definitely has the talent.
I think you're right about the offensive line needing to succeed in order for Arizona to even have a chance at making a bowl game next season, and I think that is kind of what we're determining success, right? Obviously, that is the bar. If they don't reach the bowl game, but it looks great and they're competitive, that's a different story. But if for either of those things to take place, right, the offensive line has to come out and be strong, and that then gets you to rehabilitating Noah Fifita's statistical presence, I will say, and then you can get to seeing what your wide receivers have. It is kind of like this trickle-down effect, right? If you don't have the offensive line support, you don't have the quarterback play, then you have no idea what you even have with these receivers who, I mean, the floor and the ceiling. Is there a group, Damon, for you? I mean, this is a little side tangent, but is there a group for you with Arizona's offense that has a higher floor, like higher, lower, like variance to the floor and ceiling than the wide receivers? Like, I think if you told me that the wide receivers came out and across the board look skilled, fast, and tough to hang with, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see it on the roster. It makes sense. If you came out and told me that, they were okay in 2025, but they just were missing that one guy that could always separate and always make a play, I would believe that too, right? Is that the group for you? Maybe it's the offensive line for you. But is that the offensive group that you think has the highest variance in their floor and ceiling?
It's absolutely the offensive line, although I don't know how high the variance with the offensive line is. I think that it could be between probably really bad and average is kind of where I'm sitting at with the O-line. Whereas with the receivers, I don't think that there's a world where they're like straight up bad. I think that there's a world where they're disappointing. But I also think that there's a world where they're kind of, like encouraging. Like they kind of came out of nowhere. I ultimately just think that there's too many mouths to feed from a receiver standpoint that they can't all be bad, right? Like the only scenario in which I could see where where like, all 7 of them have disappointing seasons or whatnot is like somehow, how like when you practice defense versus offense against one another and your defense is just dominating your offense in like spring ball. And then you're sitting there and you're scratching your head and you're like, is our defense really good or does our offense actually suck? Like it's one of the two, right? Or probably a combination of both, but chances are it leans one way, right? I don't think that there's a world in which like all 7, 8 of the rotational pass catching options are disappointing. Unless that's just why some of them are showing out at times during camp and whatnot, because it's easy to stand out when you're with a bunch of mid. But I really do think that like there's too many options where people will separate themselves throughout the season. Like I don't see a world where a Chris Hudson is necessarily like not a good player. I don't know if he'll be some, groundbreaking kind of like game-changing piece either, but the guy's played a lot of college football for Washington State, who's had a decent program and decent teams. And last year had a good quarterback, right? I mean, isn't Washington State's quarterback playing for Oklahoma this year, Mateer or whatever?
Yeah.
And then, but the year before that, he was at Oregon. And, I like to make fun of Oregon's receivers, but they bring in a lot of high school football talent at wide receiver. I think that, like I look at a guy like that and I think to myself, the floor is pretty high on Chris Hudson. Is he going to be great? Maybe not, but I think he'll be an above average receiver. And if the other receivers are looking kind of in that same regard throughout spring camp and whatnot, I think that I feel comfortable saying that a few of these guys will separate themselves ultimately. But I do worry about that offensive line unit overall.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a pretty good evaluation of it. I think the offensive line, is the most important thing to get hammered out for certain. I was curious on your opinion about the wide receivers, though. Getting back to the PFF chart and statistical data situation, they did break those down from the chart into tiers. Should we look at the tiers, Damon?
Yeah, let's do it.
So here we have the clustering Power 4 starters from Pro Football Focus, and in that you have the multiple tiers of 1, who will be CFB's next star, 2, smaller sample but big flashes of brilliance. The third category here, great rushers, but they need to improve their actual passing chops. And then a don't sleep on category, which I thought was kind of interesting there to just throw in the middle. Need to see more in 2025, long shots and lower rated vets. And then obviously, last but not least, freshmen / not enough FBS snaps. Noah Fifita coming in at who will be CFB's next star tier. Damon,
one more time?
Noah Fifita. You see it in that top tier. Is in the who will be CFB's next star tier. How are we feeling about that, Damon?
I mean, I love it. And I think it, it's like we said with the chart that we showed that kind of helped determine these rankings. It was just a culmination of what he's already done in college football. It's inarguable. Like this is obviously it's their own algorithm and it's what PFF uses to determine it, but it's done by using statistics and how play on the field has actually transpired. The players that he's with here in this class is really, really good quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks essentially in college football. Some of the surprising names on this list, I mean, I think the smaller sample but flashes of brilliance category is interesting because I with DJ Lagway and with Arch Manning, 100%, right? Like that's the knocks on those two. They have insanely high potential, probably the 2 highest potentials of any quarterback, I'd say, in all of college football this year, maybe. But we haven't seen them enough. That being said, what the hell is Jalen Daniels doing on this list? Small sample size. Has the guy been playing college football since I was in middle school? That seems like the opposite of a small sample size, doesn't it?
It definitely does, Damon. I'm with you on that. I was thinking, honestly, I don't know if I mean, I guess you could say that, but for me, 1 year of what Sam Leavitt has done, next star, get him out of there.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going full heel today.
We're going right back.
And that's just what it is. Next star is kind of crazy.
I want to almost give you a segment to talk about it by itself, Kevin. Like, do you want to just continue talking about the Noah Fifita stuff, and then we can dive into that a little bit later in the show?
Honestly, no. I would like to prepare like a lawyer statement and really flesh out my case. You know what I mean? I feel like I have a case here. I feel like I can really change some people's minds if I had the time to do so. But
Dude,
today,
we're playing bad cop today on the Easy Wildcats podcast. Usually it's good cop, bad cop, where Kevin sits here and he's very political.
You know what it was?
He's very like, everybody that joins our fine program, drop a like. It's all love here in the chat. We just love Big 12 sports, and we're just excited to join this journey with the rest of you. And meanwhile, I'm like, and here's another thing, BYU fans, get the hell out of Tucson. But today, Kevin has just all day, nonstop, been going after Sam Leavitt. I love it, man. I feel like I'm rubbing off on you a little bit.
Maybe. You know what it was, though? It was us talking with our guy, Ayrton, and him, bringing to our attention that Sam Leavitt's truly getting some really high mock drafts going on out there.
No, it was me that showed you that.
It was you. Okay, well, we were having the conversation with Ayrton of the Suns Pod about it, and it just kind of drove me crazy. I was like, Sam Leavitt's a good dude. He's a good dude, good quarterback.
Good dude university.
Yeah, good dude university, good quarterback as well. Like, he's skilled, he's talented. I'm not trying to take that away from him. He had a great year last year. What happened to our sport? Top 10 pick is insane. Is it not? Am I losing my mind? Or is this just not a strong year for franchise leadership in the NFL draft? If, again, skilled quarterback. I'm not trying to start nothing with Eric Ruby and Anthony Totri, but what I am saying is top 10 is an insane indictment of that draft class. No,
it's not giving generational NFL star.
No, it's not. Not serving that at all. Not serving it at all. No.
It's a long way removed from the draft class of in a row, Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. It's not that draft class. I'll tell you that much. But you're telling me you're not all in on Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, Sam Leavitt, Drew Aller, and Garrett Nussmeier? None of those guys are screaming NFL franchise changer to you?
Dude, it's crazy. I know things can change. People can develop. Things can happen. You might be bad at one point in your life, and then the only way to become good at it is to continue to do that thing, right? So if someone sees you in the beginning of your career and then they think you're garbage, and then they get to the end and you're the best thing ever, you can't really judge them forever off of that. But we're talking about Drew Aller. Drew Aller? I've watched Drew Aller play football.
I'm not a big Drew Aller fan.
You know what I mean? It's just, is that guy gonna... We're talking about wins above average,
So I've heard regarding Penn State, and I caution people in lead up to this Penn State season, I think that they're stacked, man. They have a loaded roster. They have basically everybody on their entire team minus, Abdul Carter coming back next season. And, Penn State always has pass rushers. They added Syracuse's #1 wide receiver to the mix, who was one of the best receivers in college football last year. They should have an insane team next season. And I bet you Drew Aller in a wildly overrated Big Ten per usual. People are going to be losing their mind about him halfway through the year. Then we'll hit the college football playoff and everyone will see exactly what we saw last season, which is a guy who is, has toolsy, but not a good quarterback, not an elite quarterback, I should say, at the end of the day.
Toolsy sounds like a rapper from the UK. I feel like that's a song that that's a rapper that Eric would try to put us onto, and when he gets in the office, hey, you guys, have you heard this new Skepta song with Toolsy?
Dude, have you seen the Drewski clip making fun of UK rappers? It's one of the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life.
I have.
That's naughty. All the rappers are going crazy in the background, all the drillers.
Does this count as our verbal meme of the day?
Yes.
Verbal meme of the day. There it is. Check it off. 29 minutes into the pod. Our verbal meme of the day.
Another one. But getting back to this list here, Kevin, I do want to talk about it. I mean, I think, as I said, DJ Lagway, Arch Manning look like the high ceiling guys for me from an NFL standpoint of this group. You got to hope that if you're an NFL team, that one of those guys kind of stakes their claim or both of them maybe. But looking more at some of the other interesting names on this, great rushers, but better passing needed. Sawyer Robertson, that one's interesting.
I was just going to point that out too if you didn't. I
feel like he belongs kind of in that first group for me, to be completely honest with you. I think that he kind of is a star in the making. I think Devin Dampier belongs exactly there. Like, that's what I've been saying about Devin Dampier is I think, from a rushing standpoint, his floor is pretty high. Like, he'll be good in the Big 12 as long as he can stay pretty injury-free. But what does he have from a passing standpoint? And then you have Avery Johnson there from Kansas State right next to him, another guy who has an insanely high ceiling and was good last year, but not maybe the level people expected him to be last year. But I also find that group right below them pretty interesting, Kevin, the don't sleep on category. Not super familiar with West Virginia's quarterback, to be completely honest with you. So that one's going to be, I'm going to bear that one in mind a little bit as we move forward here in college football. But Damon Williams, old friend, Arizona legend for 2 weeks, if anyone remembers properly. I think he's going to have an insane season next year. I really do. I think that we're going to be looking back at Washington this year and be pretty. I don't know how great the record will be. I feel like 8-4 is probably a decent prediction for Washington, but their backfield of Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman, that feels bad.
Could have been records.
Don't sleep on John Mateer. I'm not sure anyone is sleeping on John Mateer. I'm not sure Oklahoma NIL boosters are sleeping on John Mateer, because I think he's making probably about $5 million for Oklahoma this season. And then Lenore Sellers. Like, who's sleeping on Lenore Sellers? I think he's in the Heisman conversation.
The snoring on Sellers? Sorry, I tried that one. Anyway, but yeah, no one is sleeping on Lenore Sellers. The man's in the damn SEC. He's in the biggest football conference in the country.
I mean, he plays for one of the more relevant teams in the SEC for sure. But I think that he's a guy that is on people's radar. I'm not sure that he's one to sleep on. I mean, I know that this is based off of their chart, so it's not as if they're just willy-nilly grouping these QBs together. I mean, but Lenore Sellers is in the positive WAA above, like, wins above average there, just above that through line. So, I think he's going to be in that star category as well, personally.
Can I bring up another name that kind of surprised me in terms of their placement? And
sure.
like you said, this is based off numbers, so I can't really, I'm not really too surprised by anything because there's literally statistical backing for why he's there. But Diego Pavia being in the great rushers but better passing needed category
based off of where he is on the chart.
Yeah.
I agree.
And also based on the fact that it's like Diego Pavia, and like Diego Pavia is good. Like, you know what I mean? I almost feel like he's at the unction. You know what I mean?
Where he's a little overrated.
Yeah, where it's like
he's one of those guys his name has become a little bigger than his status, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like he's the junior that's on JV, and it's like, you're running with some young guns. You look really good, but can we get you to that next level where you're really doing the best with the best of them?
Yeah.
Awesome run last year from Diego Pavia, though. Like, not trying to take that away from him. He had some crazy moments last year. I was certainly rooting for Vandy in some of these games that they were putting up.
He's good for Vanderbilt,
right?
And I'm sure Vanderbilt's going to have a better season than they've had in a long time with him under center. I'm not trying to poo-poo him at all. I just think that he's not maybe an elite quarterback.
Yeah, we're passing on Pavia. And we're going to continue this pod on the other side of this break. We're going to talk about more of these rankings, more of the surprises in there, and also Arizona's got its closer back, all that and more on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't you go anywhere. And it is summer, and we're passing time, and that means we're probably spending money. And if you're trying to keep track of your finances, Monarch Money is the best way to do just that. Start managing your finances to build the life that you actually want. I'm using Monarch Money right now. I just got the notification to my phone like 5 minutes ago. They just, detected a new recurring vendor in my bank account, so I'm gonna have to, do my due diligence and see what that is later. But that's what Monarch Money can bring to your life. It's like your CFO of your actual personal life. It controls all your finances for you, so you don't have to. It tracks your income, your expenses, all that kind of stuff. You can also set and crush goals using Monarch Money. If you have a big trip coming up and you want to save up a certain amount of money, you can set a goal on the app and reach it using Monarch Money. Checking your finances, whether it's with your partner, maximizing investments, reviewing big transactions, it can all be very difficult. And that is why Monarch Money is the top recommended personal finance app by users and experts with over 30,000 5-star reviews. So get control of your overall finances today with Monarch Money. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off of money-saving tools with monarchmoney.com using code PHNX. Saving you money on saving money.
Kevin, it is nasty outside weather-wise here in the Valley. It is currently, as I check right now, a little bit cloudy outside, and it's still triple digits, 100 degrees on the dot. No better place to get out of the heat and just go on a quick little staycation than Gila River Resorts and Casinos, guys. It's just like having Vegas, but right in your backyard. They have so many different amenities as a part of their casino, whether it's the fine dining options like the Prime Shula Steakhouse, or whether it's, something a little bit more low scale, like a Fat Burger, for example, like me and Derek Montilla have dove into many a times over at Wild Horse Pass. But they also have, of course, the biggest sports book in the state of Arizona. Their great cabana area with all the pool and the bar over there, as well as one of the best concert venues in our great state. So many different things to do over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. And of course, they have the gambling as well. So if you're looking for a place to staycation, head on over to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check out one of their many locations here in the Valley. I am a Wild Horse Pass man. Kevin, soon enough, will be a V Kiva man himself. And I'll have to go check it out because I have never been to V Kiva, and I am excited to get out there, Kevin, now after your move to the West Valley. So we're going to have to check it out, gather with friends, catch all the action at the BetMGM Sportsbook at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and bet on all the sports that's going on over there. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Breaking news, Becky Burke just keeps building, whether it's players recently or whether it's players in the far distant future. Claire Stoops has been offered by Arizona. I just wanted to throw that out there. It was first in my Twitter feed. Class of 2030. Becky Burke is out there doing the groundwork for the years to come. But that was all. Little tiny bit of Arizona news. I pretty much brought that up to say that it was I forget what it was called, but they were on some sort of like recruiting trail, was the women's basketball staff this week. So I'm glad that there is some fruit, coming out of that harvest there. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, Becky Burke will continue to work, and I love Arizona's chances with players of the future because I just think that energy is infectious, right? And she definitely has a good thing going right now when it comes to early on parts of the program. But rounding out, Kevin, this discussion about these quarterback rankings, are there any more people on this list that maybe you were confused seeing them in their category?
We already talked about Sawyer Robertson. I honestly felt like Connor Wegman should be in that need to see more in 2025 category.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Based off of just literally how I view Connor Wegman. I kind of like Georgia Tech's quarterback King being in the great rushers category there. I think back to that game in Ireland last year to start off the season. That was kind of an unbelievable game. But yeah, overall, I think we kind of talked about most of the big question marks or just notable players on this list. Obviously, Noah Fifita being as high as he is great to see. And then obviously some of the greatest quarterbacks in draft history: Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, Sam Leavitt. I mean, this is absolutely loaded NFL draft coming up the next couple of years. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude. As a guy who just loves the National Football League like yourself, Kevin, I know you can't wait.
I bleed the badge, man.
I can't. The shield.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I know you can't wait.
I was testing you.
Yeah, you were testing me.
Nothing gets by you, Damon. Dog.
I know you can't wait to see where these guys will end up and how their futures will blossom in the league here. But I do find that some of the long shots and lower rated vets are interesting. In particular, Dante Moore from Oregon. I think that his ranking is a little bit disrespectful there, just in the way that he played as a true freshman for a not very good UCLA team. He didn't look good doing so, but it felt kind of understandable. And to get the keys to a program like Oregon, I don't think they would do that unless they truly believe that you were a quarterback that could kind of elevate them, right? And so the fact that he almost has felt like the predetermined starter at Oregon for a minute makes me think that he's going to finish much higher than that. He was a 5-star recruit. He was the number one quarterback in his class. Like I find it a hard time to believing that he shouldn't be in this freshman / not enough FBS snaps category right below, because it almost feels like the category that he's in above that is like kind of discounting what he could be and his potential, whereas the one below that would not do so. But a lot of good quarterback potentials on that freshman / not enough FBS snaps list as well. I mean, you have Julian Sayin, Bryce Underwood, some of the quarterbacks that are expected to have big years here in college football. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of room for change on this list, but ultimately it was just, it goes to show that I think at Arizona, we maybe have discounted the quarterback that we have in our own ranking. You know what I mean? Like in his own right, like he is, as far as college football's biggest and brightest stars at quarterback, he has proven almost as much as every single one of them, barring maybe Carson Beck, who played for the most talented football team in the country over the last 3 years. Other than that, who's really above him? And so I think that, yeah, Noah Fifita probably being a little bit underrated, under the radar going into 2025. And I wanted to address this comment here that we had in the chat here. Kevin, Fifita is mid at best. I would argue that you are entirely wrong, because at best, we saw what Noah Fifita was, and it was one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. So how could you call him mid at best when his best is undeniably better than mid?
I mean, we don't have the gavel. It's been moved to the actual court of PHNX. So, but if I had a gavel, I would be banging the gavel right now, because I think you laid down the law, and I think that's what it is. But yeah, no, you're right. Fifita's best, we've seen it, and it's far better than mid.
It far surpasses mid.
It far surpasses mid, and I think even as, I'll say, bad as he was last year for his own standards, right? I think and I'd have to look back at the stats, right? But it was there were some of those games where it was like, this is pretty much mid. You know what I mean? And it's still like a winnable game for Arizona in that way. So yeah, I cannot wait to see what Noah Fifita does at his best next year, because it's certainly for damn sure ain't gonna be mid. I'm confident in saying that.
And I love the confidence. I'm not even confident in saying that. I'm just saying that calling Fifita mid at best, I think is just factually incorrect, as determined by what we've seen him at his best, and it was far, far better than mid. 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, leading college football in completion percentage among qualified quarterbacks. I mean, that doesn't sound mid to me at all.
No, yeah.
The guy had a 73% completion percentage in 2023. That's not mid. That's a guy who's, out there carving people up. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, Mickey is probably an ASU fan, and that's fine. As Harvey says, Cam took his backpack with him, brother. We'll see. We'll see if Sam has the facilities to buy a new one.
Yeah, he'll have to be at his best, and we'll see exactly what his best is this upcoming year, Damon. And did you like you said? Did you have any other thoughts on this? I did want to throw one more name at you in terms of people on this list that we did not talk about.
Hit me.
Big Nico at the top right there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Nico's placement on this list as one of CFB's next stars?
I think that it hurts probably leaving Tennessee for UCLA, because Josh Heupel is probably one of the better offensive minds here in the college football that we have left. But that being said, he is a good quarterback. I think he raises UCLA's ceiling, no doubt about it. And I think UCLA could probably be better than a lot of people considered them being before the Nico Iamaleava transfer into UCLA. So maybe it screws up from a mental standpoint. We all know how important it is to be a connected team, and how we've been talking about that as a big reason why we think Arizona could shock some people in 2025. But if Nico can come in and his teammates don't feel, like he's trying to steal the limelight and be a big college football star with how everything went down at Tennessee, I could see UCLA having a surprisingly good season. But I think USC is going to stink. That's my take on former Pac-12 teams that go to the Big Ten. I think UCLA or USC is going to be bad. UCLA will be better than maybe expected, and Oregon will be in the conference championship game. Yeah, and Washington is irrelevant now.
Yeah, shout out to that backfield though, because
shout out Sales Bossy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we were having some Washington. I feel like every time we talk Washington on this podcast,
he just pops up.
Sales Bossy. I feel like he's mysteriously missing sometimes. I feel like he misses his pockets. You know what I mean? Where he could really come in and talk Washington ball and be in the pocket with us, and maybe he could throw a jab. You know what I mean? Maybe he could throw a cross, something like that. And I feel like Yeah, he's nowhere to be seen when we're actually talking Washington ball. But when we're talking like about Jed Fish in particular or whatever, he always seems to pop up there, Damon. But we do have one more break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. And we have a lot more Arizona Wildcats news and notes to get to on the other side of this break. So stick with us. Don't go anywhere. And I want to talk to all of you at home today about Pure Edibles. It's the dog days of summer. It's the off season, and that means you might be bored at times. You know, you don't got sports on the way you wish that you did. And Pure Edibles can help you with that because they were founded right here in Arizona, and they're available. If you go to a dispensary, it's likely they have them there. Over 130 dispensaries statewide carry Pure Edibles, and their gummies are not covered in sugar like their competitors. It's a full-fledged candy company that also offers gummies, Starburst-like kicks, and then soft candy caramel kind of vibes. If you're into hard candy, you can be into that as well, but they do provide hard candies, and the effects are purely listed on the can, so you know exactly what type of vibe you're getting yourself into. It was created in Flagstaff at Noble Herb Dispensary, the home of Pure Edibles. So make sure to check out Pure Edibles today. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries statewide. Let them help you get through the dog days of summer is what I'm trying to say. They be helping me out, so.
So true, Kevin. So true. They have their effects, so perfectly marketed right on top of their cans. And one of those effects, that maybe is just kind of comes with the territory of taking a Pure Edible is a little bit of the munchies.
Oh.
But if you have the munchies, there's no better place to go than America's Thirst Stop, which is, of course, Circle K. They have all sorts of snack and meal deals going on over at Circle K. They have their Polar Pops, which are, of course, available for 79 cents if you are a member of the Inner Circle. And all sorts of deals always going on at Circle K with the Inner Circle Rewards program, which if you guys have not signed up for, you are making such a big, massive mistake. It's so easy to sign up for it. All you have to do is, create an account, get a username, pick a password, type in that phone number, and it takes 2 minutes. You are done, and you will save 25 cents off per gallon on the first 5 fill-ups at the gas tank. Every time you fill up after that, we'll save 3 cents per gallon and then 5 cents off per gallon when you become a premium member like me, myself, like Kevin, like the rest of the people here at PHNX Sports. Guys, Circle K, the savings are all over the place, and they are all over the place with the Inner Circle Rewards program. Like I said, it's so easy to sign up. Join for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
We do have a super chat.
Josh Espada says $1.99. Fifita wouldn't even start for Sal Point. Go Devils. I'm trying to think, who is Sal Point's quarterback right now? I'm not sure that I really know who it is. Maybe I'm a little bit.
Are you washed?
Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit out of the loop here. Is that the sign of officially being old? You have nothing to do with your high school at this point.
It's that, and it's also like when the prospects in the draft, when you start saying like, oh, this kid, and you really mean like this kid, you're unk at the unction. You know what I mean? Like this podcast is the unction.
So true.
That's what it is. You and I are just two washed guys on a podcast these days.
We appreciate you, Josh. Thank you for the super chat, my guy.
Yes, thank you, Josh, for the super chat. I'm actually trying to find the Sal Point quarterback right now for you on this great podcast here. But when I do get that information, I will let you know as soon as possible.
Could be used to be, and maybe future starting BYU quarterback Trayson Bourget. Could be interesting.
It looks like Matthew Avalar.
Okay.
I'm looking at a Twitter page. It says 2027 quarterback at Sal Point football. He's 6'2", 205.
It's good size.
Sheesh.
Prototypical size. You listening up, Brent Brennan?
I mean, he is, right? So, we're just doing some prospecting, as Max would call it, but this time for Brent Brennan. We already know that we do the scouting for Becky Burke and women's basketball as well, so why not just add football to that list? Damon, we are nearing the end of our show here. I think we should discuss some Arizona baseball stuff before we get on out of here. And I think we should start with Tony Pluta, who has announced his return to Arizona baseball this upcoming season. I think this was somewhat of the expected outcome here with Pluta's situation. I know his dad recently came out and had somewhat of a confusing, I will say, statement about how he was he got misunderstood. He was trying to just not close any doors for Tony's, pro prospects, but he also wasn't trying to burn any bridges at Arizona. And there was this weird, the fans didn't know how to read it because they're not in the room, right? So if he's talking about conversations that we aren't privy to, it's a weird way to interpret that. But all things work out, all things are good, and Tony Pluta ends up back in the U of A Navy and gray as well on the road.
I mean,
it's a weird combo. Bring back the Navy and white. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure that's what I said from the beginning. If you went back to that exact day on this podcast where Tony Pluta's dad was saying, hey, we're gonna, test all of our options, but I think it was right when it was announced that Kevin Vance was going to take the San Diego State head coaching job, correct? And then Joe DeRuin was kind of the rumored guy who was going to take that step up from the rotation, leading that pitching rotation standpoint. And of course, I think Tony Pluta's dad was just going out there and just, being like, hey, maybe we get drafted. He is draft eligible this year. He had a great college baseball season. I don't know if it was necessarily ever in the cards for Tony Pluta to really leave Arizona. It always felt like the most likely scenario, at least for me. And now going into next season, I think, last season you looked at the team and said, lots of really good hitters kind of on their last window, right? Like Brendan Summerhill, Aaron Walton, Mason White, guys who got drafted extremely highly in the MLB draft. None of those guys are going to be returning next year, but you do have lots of really talented pitchers coming back next year. So you have Owen Kramkowski, you have Smith Bailey, and now you have Tony Pluta, who are probably your three most notable pitchers from last year's team, all coming back. While losing your pitching coach, I think that you probably feel more comfortable bringing in guys that can play from a position standpoint in college baseball. I think that it's easier to find, really high-level hitters, especially to come to Arizona, than it is high-level college pitchers. But if Arizona has this kind of pitching core together, I think that bodes well for Arizona's chances next year, because then you just have to replace the hitters. And not that's easier said than done, but I think it's, like I said, easier to replace hitters than pitchers.
Yes, and also you just need less things on the to-do list. Yeah, I'm not going to complain about not having to go get another arm, to go close out a game, right? You love to have the 2025 stopper of the year coming back for a finale kind of a season or an encore, I think is what I saw Arizona Baseball put in their tweet earlier when I was looking at it. I like that way of describing it because that's kind of what it would be, right? Arizona's season kind of an up and down way to go, and then you have the ending be somewhat disappointing where you're happy that you made it as far as you did, but also you really should have been playing more baseball towards the end of the year than you ended up playing. And so I think that keeping that mentality in the locker room, I think having a guy like Tony Pluta in the clubhouse to be like, look, we all remember how that felt last year, right? And then for some of the new guys, you're going to have transfers coming in that might play a role. And you're talking about with the hitting, you might have big time hitters transferring in if that's the case, right? You just need guys like Tony Pluta on your team. And obviously, like you've alluded to very intelligently on this show at times, right? He might not have the best stuff in the country, but he's an incredible closer at this level. And you can't really ask for much more of him in that role. Like I said, stopper of the year. He did have a poor outing towards the end of the season there, but pitching a lot of innings there, and which was
really unfortunate. Yeah, that's such a tough way to end that season.
It is, and it's probably a part of the reason why you come back, right? To not have that sour taste in your mouth when you're thinking about it. So yeah, very happy to see Tony Pluta suiting up for Arizona again. And also, Damon, you alluded to it there. You have a new pitching coach that's been promoted. Like, this is a huge bit of confidence in that coach, right? We were talking about how important Kevin Vance was for Arizona baseball last year, and the role that he played in the confidence of these pitchers, and how, you know, Smith Bailey after an incredible outing in the College World Series, who does he point to? Vance, and says, like, that's the guy. Like, thank you to him, thank you to Chip Hale, but it's him first, right? Like, so losing that guy. Excuse me. You and I all had questions about, is the person replacing him going to have the same level of credibility? Are they going to have the same level of pull with these pitchers? Or is it kind of to compare it to a Brent Brennan, how he came in and said, like, my first year was kissing a bunch of butt and trying to figure out, like, you know, making people like me, respect me, and understand that I'm here and, like, this is now my role. And I'm not just the guy that's coming in with a, you know, smile and an orange slice, whatever. So I think in terms of our new pitching coach, DeRuin, like, I think that is a huge bit of confidence for him to be able to retain Tony Pluta and some of these other arms that he's been able to retain.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think Arizona baseball, long way to go until the roster is officially set, but definitely, have a good thing going from a pitching standpoint and what's already in the arsenal here at Arizona. But moving on here, Kevin, and into our kind of final news and note here of the day. Arizona quarterback, greatest quarterback in Arizona football history, Nick Foles, has been inducted into the University of Arizona Sports Hall of Fame. Nick Foles, very, very well earned. Probably far and away the greatest quarterback that this football program has ever seen, and the only Super Bowl MVP as well in program history that he, of course, won with the Eagles, defeating Tom Brady and the Patriots, where he played an exceptional football game. Kevin, we did a what if scenario.
What if you disappeared?
That was weird.
Yeah. I mean, what if you disappeared?
I almost just like Thanos style, Avengers style,
well, you know
faded off into the distance.
You know what it was? It was like can I hit you with another verbal meme? It's the guy that throws up the peace sign and then just disintegrates.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about
verbal meme day. By the way,
I mean 2 for 1.
Put that on your bingo card.
2 for 1 Tuesday. That's all I'm saying. You were talking about Nick Foles and his Hall of Fame induction before you almost got Thanos snapped. Quite frankly, yeah, that was weird. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick Foles, in his Arizona football career, I thought you had a lot more to say about that.
No, I'm not gonna lie.
Not aware that
I didn't know.
Setting me back up for that.
I didn't know if you were fully done before you got Thanos snapped, and that's why I was like, I'm gonna let him finish his point if he had something to finish there, because you did get rudely Thanos snapped in the middle of your point.
We determined, in our what if show that we did last week that, Nick Foles was almost an Arizona State Sun Devil, and the kind of the trickle down effect of that is so disgusting and gross. But instead, he sees himself inducted into the Arizona Wildcats Hall of Fame. Just awesome stuff, man. He in his Arizona college football career, he had 57 yards at Michigan State. So we have to say in his Arizona college career, he totaled 10,011 passing yards, 67 touchdowns, and 33 interceptions. The most passing yards in Arizona football history. He led the conference in passing yards his last year at Arizona. He had 4,300, 28 touchdowns that year. As Edgar says, if only him and Gronk overlapped, if only him and Kadeem overlapped, it feels like it's like that with every Arizona legend ever. But yes, Gronk sat out 2009, Foles joined in 2009, and then Foles leaves in I think Matt Scott's year was Kadeem Carey's first year, and then Kadeem Carey kind of took the reins of the program right after that. So it sucks, man. We could have had our all-time tight end with our all-time quarterback with our all-time running back, and instead we got none of them playing together. And good teams, but no great teams.
You have some all-time position players there, and you also could have had a Nick Foles Super Bowl MVP situation with a Gronk multiple rings and all the postseason success he has as teammates, as legends that have that timeline overlapped, as you can't talk about one without the other kind of thing. And I think it would have been a cool continuation of that. But yeah, honestly, we kind of walked this memory lane the other day with our what if, like you alluded to. With the Arizona State thing, but I kind of forgot about the Michigan State tie-in. We were talking a lot about Sam Leavitt earlier, and I had some things to say about Michigan State football. Not very nice things to say about Michigan State football. And so I kind of felt like maybe I should have taken some of those things back. You know what I mean? Because one of our greats did also grace the Michigan State. Is that Lansing? I don't know where that is, but did grace the Lansing campus. So maybe I should have nicer things to say about Michigan State because they did give us our Nick Foles in a way.
No, I don't want to say nice things about them specifically because I don't know if you remember when Nick Foles won that Super Bowl MVP, they were Michigan State's football account tweeted congrats to former Spartan Nick Foles on, getting his Super Bowl MVP.
Stolen valor.
And you're you don't get to claim him after making him back up to Kirk Cousins for his career at Michigan State up to that point. I don't think that's allowed.
Yeah, no, that is very valid. And also shout out to Nick Foles for, I feel like, the one year in St. Louis. I feel like that needs to be mentioned as well. Played a year for the Rams in St. Louis. Are you disappointed at all that the timelines never lined up because he was kind of a journeyman for the majority of his career until he got to Philly the second time. Or the first time, I should say. Never got a Cardinal stint out of Nick Foles. Never returned to the state, the Freedom State, to play professionally. Do we feel any type of way about that?
It did. I thought, it felt like it definitely was in the cards maybe at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and no pun intended on that one either. But it did feel like I remember, if I remember correctly, that was possibly being talked about at one point. But no, I mean, ultimately, I think his legacy will always be remembered as, winning the Eagles their first Super Bowl and having the statue outside of the Eagles Stadium. And so I think that Nick Foles would tell you he's ecstatic about the entire way his career ended up panning out, because if he plays with Gronk at Arizona, maybe that ups his profile, even years down the line, but maybe that gets him drafted higher in the NFL draft a couple years down the line. And then, he's not an Eagle, and then they don't bring him back for his second stint, and then he doesn't win Super Bowl MVP. It's like everything played out exactly the way that it was supposed to, and for a reason. And also shout out Nick Foles for being a guy who just reps Arizona athletics as hard as he does, man. He is a true Arizona Wildcat in every sense of the word, and definitely just loves his university. So shout out Nick Foles, much deserved. And of course, we will be celebrating his Hall of Fame inductee here. And maybe, who knows, maybe future program.
No, I was future friend of the program.
We will see. But Kevin,
we're going to be celebrating all night. All day, all night. The Nick Foles is inducted into the Hall of Fame of Arizona. We're celebrating all day, all night. We're breaking out the bottles. We're breaking out the cigars. We're breaking out the noisemakers. What else do you do for a party? Cake, party hats, cupcakes, chips, salsa. Anyway, but yeah, congratulations to Nick Foles. Very happy about that. It kind of, for me, I think this morning, like, the news didn't necessarily hit as hard for me, and not because I'm not from Tucson or whatever, but mostly because, like, it feels like he's just in there already, Like, it just feels like it wasn't like I can't wait for Nick Foles to have his day of when they decide if he makes it into the Hall of Fame or not. You know what I mean? It was almost like he wasn't in the Hall of Fame yet. That's right. Like, that was my reaction to it, because he's so deserving and he has accomplished so much in his sport. So, yeah, congratulations to Nick Foles.
That's going to do it for us today here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We appreciate everybody for watching with us, for joining us, the ASU fans even, for getting here in the chat and getting active. It was fun. Love a little bit of a Big 12 ranking debate, love a little bit of a quarterback debate, and love, remember here, my co-host, the benevolent Kevin Thomas at Kevo Posts, feel free to come after him. He's the biggest Sam Leavitt hater, I think in the world. I think
there's no way.
Number one Sam Leavitt hater, Kevin Thomas, reporting for duty here. You guys know who to attack and go after if you wanted to take this off air. But I am, of course, Damon Dog, Damon Fairall. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And you can follow our show account at PHNX_Wildcats. This is the AZ Wildcats podcast. That was our Tuesday edition, and we will be back on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. But until then, we're going to get out of here, I should say. In the meantime, we'll catch you tomorrow at 2 p.m., though, on a Wednesday edition of the AZ Wildcats pod. Until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. I miss football so damn much.
We all silly like the mayor.